I'm Daniela of abcrafty, and today I'm going to show you how to make felted soap in a few different patterns. The first thing you'll need is, of course, some soap. I highly recommend using some good quality soap. As you'll see later on, it's much more difficult to make felted soap using the cheaper brands as those create too many suds. I link to the ones I use in the description, as well as some other recommended brands. Next, you'll need wool. For this first one, I used a few different colors, but you can use as many as you'd like. If you've seen my video on wet felting, the process to making felted soap is very similar. You need to separate the wool into small pieces, which I go over in the other video. Then I like to dip the soap in water, and then lay the wool over the soap. You can also pull the wool directly from the roving onto the soap to place it. Something that can also help is dripping some water onto the wool and pressing it into the wool to help stick it to the soap. Continue to add wool in different directions until the bar is covered. You can move the fibers where you'd like. I sometimes like to spread them to make a sort of web design. It can also be fun to change and overlap colors. Next, take some mesh and wrap it tightly around everything. This helps hold everything in place. Rub gently to create a layer of skin. You don't want to add too much pressure or the wool will start to felt through the mesh. Then lift the mesh to make sure it's not sticking. If it is, decrease the pressure. If it's not sticking, you can slowly increase the pressure. I also like to wipe off the suds occasionally, as the goal is to add water, but remove air. The suds create air, which is again why it's important to use good quality soap. Continue rubbing and increasing the pressure until the wool around the soap feels firm. Then you can leave it to dry. Here's how this first one, using multiple colors, turned out. Another way of making felted soap is using all one color. You can simply leave it as one color, or in my case, I wanted to use a dark color and then add some embellishments to it. I added some recycled sari silk fibers to mine as I thought it would pop nicely against the maroon wool. Embellishments can add fun design and texture that isn't just wool. You just want to be extra careful while making that initial skin, and don't worry if not everything sticks, it won't. Generally, you want to add extra knowing some will fall off. But the end results with embellishments can be pretty fun. Now, to show why I don't recommend using cheap soap. I mentioned it's because the cheap soaps make big suds and the suds create air pockets. This means you constantly have to fight these air pockets. One option is to use more pressure to keep the suds from forming, but that causes the wool to felt through the mesh. Another option is to remove the mesh altogether, but the wool moves around. And another is to simply be patient and remove the suds. I went with a third option, and it just took a really long time to get to this point. In the end, you'll see I basically got it to good enough. But there are still parts I'm not happy with, as it's not fully felted. In total, I want to say I worked on this one for over 30 minutes. Meanwhile, the others were done in under 10. Ultimately, they all turned out pretty cute, and I still like the look of the last one since I used wool that was multicolored. But remember, save yourself the headache and use good quality soap.